Well, this is it, folks. It's the final video in the book of Revelation. We're going to see what John saw right here in Revelation 22. So let's go. Now, when John was exiled to the island of Patmos for preaching the gospel, he had a vision. He saw a door open up in heaven. And out of that door came the voice that was like a trumpet, saying, "Write down whatever you see and send it to the 7 churches." And so John saw all these things. He saw the scroll with the 7 seals. He saw the 4 horsemen. He saw the 2 witnesses. He saw the woman who gave birth to the child who was to rule over the nations. He saw Babylon fall, saw the beast and the false prophet get thrown into the lake of fire. Finally, he sees the new Jerusalem come down out of heaven from God. And then after all that, there's one more thing he sees. It says in verse 8, "I, John, am the one who saw these things. And when I saw them, I fell at their feet to worship the one who was seated on the throne. But he said to me, 'Do not do that. I am a fellow servant of yours and your brothers, the prophets, and of those who keep the words of this prophecy. Worship God.' Then he said to me, 'See that you do not seal up the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time is come. See that you prophesy in the same day, and in the evening let it be sent.'" So what does it mean for us today? Well, let's break it down. First of all, notice where this occurs. This takes place after John sees the New Jerusalem coming down. In other words, it's the last thing he sees. And this is significant because throughout the entire book of Revelation, John sees these amazing visions, but yet he doesn't understand what they mean. Remember, he even says in chapter 1, verse 12, "I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me, and when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands, and among them one like a son of man." Notice how in chapter 1, John didn't understand who it was that he saw. He just knew it was a son of man. But later in chapter 1, verse 13, it says, "He came, and he took my right hand and said to me, 'Do not fear, John. I am the one who was, who is, and who is to come.'" It's the Alpha and the Omega. And then later in chapter 22, verse 8, after all these visions are given to John, he falls down to worship the one who is seated on the throne. But notice what the one who is seated on the throne says. Verse 9, "Do not do that. I am a fellow servant of yours, and your brothers, the prophets, and of those who keep the words of this prophecy, worship God." So notice that this being who John thought was God turns himself and reveals himself to John and says, "Hey John, I'm not God. I'm Jesus. I'm the one who was, who is, and who is to come. I'm here to tell you, don't worship me. Worship God." So what does that teach us? It teaches us that Jesus wants us to know that while he is God, he is also fully man. So he's fully God, but he's also fully man. And therefore, he wants us to look at him as a brother, as a fellow servant. He doesn't want us to worship him. He wants us to worship God. Now, John still understood that Jesus was God, because remember, he calls Jesus the Alpha and the Omega, the one who was, who is, and who is to come. That's a direct quote from Jesus in chapter 1, verse 8. But yet he also calls him a fellow servant. And the reason why is because Jesus wants us to understand that while he is God, he's also man. He's one of us. And so he wants us to have that kind of relationship with him where we can call him brother and we can call him friend. Now, the second thing I want you to notice is what Jesus says in verse 10. "See that you do not seal up the words of the prophecy of this book, for the time has come. See that you prophesy in the same day, and in the evening let it be sent." Now this is significant because throughout the entire book of Revelation, John has been given these visions and he's been told not to write them down. But now Jesus says, "Hey John, the time has come for you to unseal these visions, to unroll these visions, and to share them with the 7 churches. Why? Because Jesus says the time has come. In other words, the time of fulfillment is at hand. The time for God to act is at hand. What is the main message of the book of Revelation? It's the sovereignty of God. God is in control. And no matter what happens in life, no matter what the circumstances may be, God is in control. So that's the message of Revelation, the sovereignty of God. So what should we take away from this last verse? What should we learn from this last vision? Well, we should learn that Jesus wants us to know that while he is God, he also is our brother. It's one of us. And he wants us to have that kind of fellowship with him, that kind of relationship with him, where we can call him brother and we can call him friend. And he also tells us that the time of God's intervention is at hand. The time of God's deliverance is at hand. We just need to trust in God and His Word and rest in His promises. Well, there you have it, folks. That is the final vision in the book of Revelation. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button. Until next time, God bless you, and remember, never hold your peace.